real estate lawyer for 40 years, and I've been running my own firm for 25 years. And I soon realized that nearly everything that I did involved dead people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The title work I did, everything I did, it all involved dead people. So we really did kind of, and most people don't have a will, especially in the price point you and I probably work in.
Right.
Will, okay? And so then you have to go into the whole intestate, Texas law, all that. So,
Right.
yeah, that's kind of become our expertise.
Has it changed over the 40 years that you've been licensed or practicing?
Well, of course, the first 15 years, I worked with the big law down in big law and did strictly commercial, and I'm so old that that was the 80s. And,
Mhm.
um, in the 80s, everything boomed up until 80 about 83, 84. Kinda slowed 85, 86, and completely crashed 87, 88, 89. So, I just did a lot of commercial development, commercial workout, all that. But then ever since I've been in the last 25 years, it's really still about this it's the same concepts that I've dealt with the whole time.
I was just watching on YouTube to get ready for this call, the advice you were giving on taxes, on property taxes, on how sometimes they delay the exemption if someone passes or they don't file it. We could definitely
That
talk about that.
Yeah,
That's,
that is a big problem for buyers. Very big problem.
yes, especially investors that, we'll buy the
Uh-huh.
property to remodel it and then we'll sell it. And before the taxes, they either catch up if we hold the house 4 or 5 months, or, sometimes they don't catch up and then whoever we sell that house to, then they get tied to it too. So,
Oh, yeah, I had a friend that she's an investor, and unfortunately, she didn't come with my title company when she bought it or when she sold it, and it almost cost her about $8,000, but I
yeah.
was able to make a claim for her that got her money back, but
Wow.
she was lucky. She was very lucky.
Well, I don't want to mess your name up, but let me introduce you. I
Sure.
did a little chat GBT to see what I could find out about you.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, but I really like that you're in residential commercial. Well, first of all, Galen Rogers Longan,
Okay.
is that
Gayleen,
Galen
Gayleen Rogers Lonergan.
Lonergan. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So very impressive background. I guess 30 years, 40 years in real estate now. You run your own practice. Is that you said the last 25 years you've been doing
Yeah.
that?
The last 25 years, yeah, this we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year.
Do you ever look towards retirement in your practice? Because I really don't these days. I've been doing real estate 19 years and I don't see me ever like shutting everything down.
No, I don't ever intend to shut everything down, and I'm 67 years old, so, I intend to continue in some capacity. At the moment, I'm just trying to get things set up where some younger people can run it, and
Yeah.
I love networking and talking to people and educating people, and I wanna continue doing that for a long time, and also there's a certain part of my practice that I help people get their proceeds after they've been foreclosed for either taxes or mortgage, and I intend to continue personally doing that for a long time. So, yeah, I don't plan on really retiring even though I tease all the time about but when if I my daughter's about to get married, my only child, she's gonna get married this year. If I ever have a
Congratulations.
grandchild, we'll have to see what happens then. But
Yeah.
that's several years off.
Kick it in gear. Give me 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Best thing I ever did. I waited until I was 45 to have kids. So I have
Yeah, I was
2 boys
41.
now.
I was
Yeah.
41 when she was born, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. My
My
wife just
late
turned.
husband my late husband was 65 when she was born.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I have
Was
2
he a lawyer
stepchildren
as
that
well?
oh, Lord, no. He was from England. He was a professional soccer player over in England.
Look at you getting, yeah, nice. That's cool.
So I have 2 stepchildren that yeah, well, yeah, actually, it kinda worked out well because we didn't, you know, we didn't bore each other with
Yeah.
talk about law and everything. But my two stepchildren, one of them's 6 months younger than me, and one of them is 2 years younger than me. So,
Okay. That's
but
cool.
my husband fooled me. He was very young. He fooled me into thinking he was only about 10 years older than me when he was really 24 years older than me.
No dating apps back then, huh? Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. That's good. Is there anything you said you're trying to you're leveraging your ability now as an attorney? That's very easy these days. So I see you on YouTube. I see you making videos. I think that's very inspirational with all your knowledge of law and transactions. And have you been to trial? Have you done trial court? Have you done all that?
Well, I mean, I started out strictly doing transactional real estate, but in the last
Okay.
15 years, I've branched out a little bit. I don't do a lot of what you would call complicated litigation or anything like that. I do evictions all the time.
Okay.
I do these hearings for excess proceeds. I do lots of those. I've probably had about 10 of those this month. And I do some quiet title and quiet title adverse possession kind of litigation, but
Nice.
that's not my main focus. Yeah.
What about these memos that these investors attach to deeds? Oh, let's get into that. I've got a
Sure.
house right now that Eric Smith has helped me with. He's an attorney. He was the probate attorney for this lady. And prior to her doing probate, she signed two contracts, one in February last year of 24, and then one in March. And the investors did not close, but they definitely attached a memo to the deed or the record.
The record. And they didn't close because they didn't close. It wasn't because she changed her mind or anything.
No, she really didn't have authority to sign the contract. She's she's
Well,
the stepdaughter of the guy that passed, and there's no other
uh,
kids in the lineage.
oh, okay. I see.
So
Yeah. Well, that is a common investor, wholesaler, particularly ploy to do. And I understand to some extent because I have seen sellers sign a contract and then immediately get seller's remorse.
mhm.
And because some of the next person comes in with a little bit higher offer.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the title underwriters are so nervous about getting sued about anything that if it's something really current, then I usually have to work something out. And a lot of times we just have to buy them off with some kind of small payment to get a release.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, the unscrupulous ones expect the world, and the recourse on that is you have to go sue them over it.
What is that process? Because it looks like these people both want $20,000.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to file a slander of title suit that they have no right to cloud that person's title. They didn't perform under the contract, and you know, some people when they get sued will back down,
Okay.
you know, but not everybody. But if they don't back down, a lawsuit generally takes, if you have to go all the way, takes a year or more, get all the way through it, and there's just not much you can do about it. That's the docket, how heavy the docket is with the
Yeah, it's too
court.
bad on this one because the mortgage is adding up. The gentleman that passed away 2 years ago had a reverse mortgage. He did solar panels on the house.
No,
So it's got every complication to, and then, yeah,
yeah.
it's just,
And if she really didn't have the authority to sign the contract, then that contract should be invalid, obviously.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a problem. It's kind of like back in the 80s. There used to be a group of, I guess, pre-MAGA people that called themselves the Republic of Texas. I
Yes.
don't know. You may be too young to remember that,
It was just
but
phasing out when I was a police
right.
officer for
And
Arlington.
yeah,
So,
Republic of Texas, and they were filing documents clouding people's title right and left. Okay.
yeah.
It was a
Wow.
big problem for the title industry for a while, and then it got to the point where they just said these are bogus. We're not even going to honor 'em. And a lot of title underwriters, it just depends on the title underwriter. If it's a company, and that's what always been one of my struggles because I've been a fee attorney the whole 25 years that I've been by myself. You have to find a title company, agency, underwriter, whatever, that is a little more aggressive than your regular retail title, that understands the issues more, because most of them retail ones, the lawyers sitting in the one office in Austin or whatever, they just tell their offices, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do that.
Right.
So I've been lucky. I mean, I have to kind of navigate and find the right people to associate with so
Yeah.
that we can do things that are a little more aggressive than some. I mean, I'll tell you, between us, even though we're recording, Fidelity is the most conservative.
Yes.
Fidelity
And
title.
capital title too.
Title. Yeah, I was with
Yeah.
them for a while, but we didn't mesh very well, so I left them.
Same here.
There.
I do a lot of sales for probate, and fortunately 60-70% people just want to cash out. So they don't want to do any work. So it's an as is property typically.
Right. Right.
So we need
Well,
title reps like
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. And the thing is, most retail title, they're not going to do all, like you said, they're not going to do all that work and do that research and do those to get the affidavits done and all that. That's something, I mean, essentially, ever since I started, I realized as a fee attorney, if a deal didn't close, I wasn't going to get paid. So our
Yeah.
philosophy was always, we're going to take these difficult ones on and we're going to work it until it closes so that we get paid.
I'm gonna bring you this file then. Close it
Because,
for me.
in the big, the big company offices, those employees get paid regardless whether the deal closes or not. In
Yeah.
my office, I don't get paid unless
Same
the deal
here.
closes. Right.
Same
So
here.
I've been highly motivated.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's I've talked to a lot of people, and it's to be a realtor, a real estate agent, to get paid on the back end of everything. I've just
Right.
gotten used to it over the years, but man, when you think about it, I always think about it whenever people ask me for a discount. It's not
Oh,
that I
I
don't want to
know.
give a discount. It's just they don't understand that I'm spending money and time not hoping, but hoping that it closes.
Whether it's going to close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
it's,
think that a lot of my business comes from referrals from people like you that have had a deal over at another title company that they can't get it done. And somebody told them, well, go call Gaylene. I have a kind of joke. I say, well, I'm kind of like the Mikey of the title business. Give it to Gaylene. She'll do anything,
I'm bringing
Mikey.
it to you today.
And so, and generally, we're pretty successful. Now, the thing that people need to understand, though, is those difficult files. Now, they may take me a while.
Yep.
You know, it's not something's going to be super fast necessarily, but we're going to work it until it does get done. I worked on one involving a bunch of heirs that they all lived in the Philippines, except for one, the one that brought it to me. And
Wow.
I worked on that. There were probably 10 dead people in the chain of title.
Does
I
that
worked
happen
on
to be
that
in
for
Forest Hill by chance?
No, I don't think so, but
Okay.
I worked on it for over 2 years and finally got it
Wow.
filed. And
Impressive.
yeah, just now I'm funding out on a excess proceeds deal where there were 20 26 heirs and we did 28 affidavits of heirship.
My goodness.
That
I
took us a while.
Yeah, because it takes a while for people to get on the same page. But
Absolutely.
that's the difficulty with those, because some people want. I always give it when I hear about a tough case. I just got an email from somebody about two parcels of land in Dallas, but they're both squatted on, and they're
Mhm.
just bare land. So somebody's put all this 18 wheelers on the land, and another
Uh-huh.
guy's put a tent up on a property,
Right?
and they want to sell it right now. They want to sell like 2 days. They want a quick sale because I sent them letters I could close in
Oh, yeah,
14 days.
no, that's not
And
gonna
it's like,
yeah.
no, that's going to be a little bit longer. So,
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be yeah, that's it never fails. I always laugh whenever somebody calls me up and says, "Oh, I got a deal. It's got to close ASAP." I said, "Okay, let's open the title and take a look at it." And then the title comes back and it's just a mess. And I'm like, "No." I'm sorry, nobody could close this in that period of time.
Mm,
You want me to work on it? I will, but I'm not making any promises about how quickly it can be done. And I
that's right.
finally got to the point, I used to get a lot of investors that would send me, pre-foreclosures. And of course, you probably know what happens there. The people that are facing foreclosure
Wow.
are in denial right up until the very end.
Yep.
Usually the week before foreclosure is when they're like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And then they call the investor that called them 3 weeks ago. And then they want me, but the investor wants to make sure the title is clear, you know.
Yep.
And so the investor calls me like the Wednesday before the next week's foreclosure. And someone would call me as late as Friday. And there for a little while, I did a couple of those. And finally, I just told them, I said, the 1 week before foreclosure is the absolute last
Yeah.
day I can take something like that on. But
I would hate to do that to my reps because we 5 to 7 days seems reasonable on most titles, but not when in a foreclosure they usually have a bankruptcy as well that you have to get released. So it's
right.
like, oh my goodness, they
Well,
just
yeah.
complicate things back and back.
Well, yeah. And also, people that are facing foreclosure could very well have federal tax lien, abstracts of judgment for credit cards. I mean, they could have lots of issues. Okay. And all of those have to be worked out if you're going to sell it. Now, foreclosure would wipe a lot of that, some of that stuff out. But if you're wanting to be a buyer, all that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, we
So,
kind of moved away from the foreclosures because the margins for us to acquire the property and the difficulty with even divorce situations. I like to
mhm.
help people as much as I can. I have a listing right now. The lady, I think she's just sabotaging all the showings, and the
Oh,
husband's like, "Hey, I want to sell this property," and we're getting offers, but they won't. They don't even want to entertain the offers.
well, that sounds like you might have to go to the scorched earth of getting a receivership appointed.
Explain that a little bit. Or actually, I wanted to ask you before. You don't have to label your fees, but what does that look like if you have to go clear someone's title? Is there is it charged by the hour? Is there a flat fee on the title work if it
No,
takes a year?
well, of course, the title side of it, the premiums are regulated and the closing fees and all that. That's pretty standard. But as far as clearing the title, I generally charge a flat fee of $500 per affidavit of heirship that I do.
Okay.
Now, it might be an easy one that takes me just a little while, or it might be a difficult one that takes us a long time. But for every one of them I charge for that. And so I always tell my investor clients that are always saying, oh, telling their sellers, oh, we're going to pay all your closing costs.
Yeah.
I always warn them and say, you need to say you're going to pay all customary closing costs, but any cost of clearing the title, you're not paying.
I'll correct that today because I had that same statement in my. Yeah.
Right.
I ran into years ago. A lady had a tax lien from her mother on the property, and she refused to close because it was taking $22,000 of her money at
Oh,
closing.
my.
And she knew about it. She had to know about it. There's just no way that the daughter didn't know about it. But she threw up a fit for about 3 days and then finally signed because we
Yeah.
just weren't going to cover that.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, they will try to hold your feet to the fire if you say you're gonna cover all closing costs.
Right.
That's what I tell them to do, and also, there's a lot of people that wanna sell their home, but they have a credit card judgment against them. Well, in Texas, title company, I know, in Texas, judgment lien against a homestead is not valid under the Constitution of Texas. But the title companies, we're not taking the risk of whether that's their homestead or not.
Ah.
So all the title companies require you either pay it off and get a release or get it released somehow, get it off there somehow. Well, the legislature a few years ago came up with a process for people to self-release those kind of liens against their homestead. It's a detailed process. Yeah, it takes exactly from the day that things start and the people sign, it takes 30 days before it's valid. So I let people know that I can do that. I've gotten several deals that way where another title company is just like, well, you have to pay it off, and I charge a fee for doing that. But they don't end up not having to pay that judgment lien.
Yeah.
So there's it. If you're willing to think outside the box a little bit, there's a lot of times there's ways to do things. You have to be, and that's the part of practicing law that I love the most is working on figuring out how to solve a problem.
Yeah.
I don't really like to draft. I don't like to do, I don't like to do all I do it because I have to. But the fun part for me is looking it all over and figuring out how it can be done.
Yeah.
And
And same for me. I like to coordinate all the mess, but I don't like doing the actual paperwork. I
exactly.
can't stand it. It takes me forever.
So I've got staff here that help me with the paperwork. I have a new lawyer. She's taking the bar exam next week, or maybe
Right.
it might be this week. I don't know. But anyway, she's going to start. She'll be here 1st of September, and I'm going to be training her so she can do a lot of the paperwork that that I don't. I'll work out how to do it, and she can do the paperwork.
Headed to the beach. Huh? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I saw on another video you talk about seller finance. So what's that for you?
Yeah, I do a lot of those, and I used to teach a investment class out at um, Champions Real Estate School.
Wow. Okay.
One of my friends and clients, she was the instructor on an investment class, and she would have me come in every session and go over owner finance and subject to and all that, and it would just blow all those potential realtors agents' minds. But yeah, I do a lot of seller finance. There's a lot of older people that own their homes free and clear that could, you know, you could easily do a pretty easy seller finance with them. But most people have a lien against their house, that's not paid off,
Right.
and then they want to sell it. And so they sell it and essentially wrap they sell it for a certain amount of money, and they wrap their loan that they're going to make around the existing loan they have. And I know real estate agents and real estate brokers hate that. I know they hate that.
That's
You would
part
be
of it.
surprised how many have been coming to me to get educated on that.
Okay. I
So,
usually tend to go away from it, but for just because you don't know who you're potentially selling to or renting to,
right,
basically, that's going to pay that mortgage. So you got to be
that's
real
correct.
careful.
You gotta be careful, that's the whole key. And that's one of the things that I learned early on when I started doing those is that one of the keys is that you have to have a third party servicing company involved in the transaction so that when the buyer that's buying it subject to these loans, okay, they make their payment not to the middleman, but to the servicing company. And the servicing company pays the
The
underlying loan,
mortgage.
and that way you have comfort. And most of them have where you have a file a log in on their program, and you can see exactly what's going on. So that really protects the sellers as well as the buyers to make
Mm,
sure that what's supposed to be being done is being done. And it's not that expensive. One that I use a lot, they charge $35 a month to do that service.
that's not bad.
That's not
That,
bad.
that's that's like less than 1%. So
Right, right.
that's
So
not bad.
that helps minimize the risk. And the other big risk, of course, is the due on sale clause. And back when we were in the period of interest rates being 2 and 3%, I didn't really worry about that because
Hmm.
most of the loans that were on the houses that were being sold were pre 2008, and they were subprime loans, and they were at 8, 9. So what lender would call a 8, 9% loan in order to make a 2% loan? They're they're in the business of making money.
Money.
Now, but unfortunately, now we're a little bit in the reverse. Now we got 6, 7, 8% loans, and a lot of the loans are at 2%. The old
Yeah.
loan might start getting their attention. The inception of the due on sale clause was back in the 70s when interest rates went up to like 16%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, interest rates are 16%. And so, and there was no due on sale clause in any mortgage. Everything was assumable.
Ah,
Everything was assumable. So people were selling their houses, and the buyers were assuming they're like 8% loan, which was everybody thought was a great rate.
yes.
And yeah,
When I
and
got in
they
real
would,
estate, 6% was awesome.
yeah, my first loan was eight in 92. When I bought my house, 8%, I was dancing. I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So the lenders were like, okay, we could be making a 16% loan, and instead we're stuck with this 8% loan.
Yeah.
They're the ones that came up with that due on sale clause.
So they've been
So
around a while. So how does it? When's your first experience with like a seller finance deal or owner finance deal? I guess 40 years to be back in the 80s. Yeah.
yeah, back in the 80s, of course, I was mostly doing commercial at that time. But in the commercial world, that was also a big help to me because when I was practicing in the 80s, commercial deals, they did subject to deals, they did
I imagine.
wrap
Yeah.
deals, they did all that stuff. And so when I came and started doing residential in the subprime period, investors would say, well, do you know how to do
Yeah.
seller finance or wrap? I said, of course I do. We did that in commercial all the time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how my business grew. I mean, I really developed into an expertise with investors. I had it. They would just start sending because they'd start sending me their deals because the retail title companies they had that great subprime stuff. They didn't need to mess with this kind of stuff that I was doing. And
Right.
so that's how my investor business really took off. But yeah, in the 80s, that was happening all the time and everybody was aware of it and there was no issues. And the lenders were happy because commercial loans were crashing.
Yeah.
So if they could get somebody that could still pay, they
Yeah.
were happy to get it. Right.
Well, that's neat how that changes over time, and or it doesn't really change, but it just adapts to the market over time.
That's
You
right.
know? And then with your experience, you could navigate that either a new investor or like me. I don't mind talking to people about it. I try to get them away from the idea and just buy the house for hard money or
Right.
something.
Right. Yeah, if it can be done, that is probably the best thing for the person. But there are situations where it only works that way. And there is a way to do it. It's just a little bit riskier. The due on sale clause, most lenders, even though, like I said, the rates are kind of reversed, they're not out there surfing looking to see if the title has changed hands. If you wave a red flag in their face,
Not
well,
paying the
yeah,
payments.
right. But if you just continue to timely make the payments or whatever, most of them are not gonna, especially the big ones. Now, I only ones I've really had any trouble ever with were where credit union,
Yeah. The smaller
small
community
lenders,
banks.
right?
Yeah.
They pay more attention to stuff than the Chases and the Wells Fargos of the world.
Are they paying attention when they go to sell that loan to somebody else, or are they just maybe looking at the deeds, have someone researching that, you think?
Well, of course, in a small credit union, the insurance department may be the same as
Yeah.
yeah, and so the insurance department all of a sudden, the insurance department gets a thing with a new because you have to put the owner of the property on the insurance.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And they get a new and they say, "Oh, wait, what's that all about?"
Yeah. A new
Right,
insurance packet. Yeah.
right. And
That
there's
makes
some
sense.
trigger, and there are insurance agents. In fact, on my podcast, I'm gonna start a series here in a couple of months about owner finance. And one of the issues is insurance. And I'm going to have an insurance agent that I know that I work with a lot that knows how to do that to avoid that flag. Okay. But still get it done properly.
That'd be
Because
interesting because we have a
if you
property
go
right
to,
now that we want to switch from our LLC to my wife's name, just get the homestead on it.
yeah, well, give us a call. I do that for people all the time.
Okay.
Um,
That's awesome.
um, yeah. So, but if your buyer goes and tries to get State Farm or a farmer's agent to do this insurance, this is going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah. We actually bought an old house in downtown Fort Worth and remodeled it. And
Uh,
it's so hard to get an insurance agent to give me a quote because the old pictures are online.
oh
I
yeah.
haven't published anything of the remodel. So when they look up the house, they're like, well, we can't insurance that. It's all from the 1900s. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. They're like, come on by, come look at the house. You'll be impressed.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So do you do, other than title work, do you actually do any probate stuff, or do you involved in any?
I do. Yeah, I do probates for people. It's not my primary, clearly not my primary. And a reason I got into it and learned how to do it was, again, investors. There were deals where investors needed a probate done.
Yeah,
So I
that's
expanded
actually
my
true.
expertise into that. So I do probates, they're relatively uncomplicated. I've had
Yeah.
one in the last year. The thing, the thing that really complicates it, I had one that I was doing, and unfortunately, there was a couple, and well, the will was typed up instead of handwritten, and so the judge wouldn't allow it to be probated, a holographic, I mean, but they typed it.
Wow.
And so I had to go into an administration as opposed
Okay.
to, and
Yeah.
so, and then it turns out that the deceased person had a brother that was adopted out, and then he had passed away, and he had two children. And so we ended up having to track those people down just to get them to approve an independent administration of this estate.
Oh,
So, they're relatively, you know, follow a real certain pattern, and they're not that difficult or that time consuming to do, but that, just like everything else, there's a few that have a few bumps in the road.
my next interview is with an attorney in Dallas that I guess they're relatively new, but they do ad litem work.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I think that's how some people break into the business. But I'm interested in how they search down people and track people down.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
deal with a lot of ad items, both in the probate area and in the excess proceeds area that I work, because it's their job to make sure that money's getting paid to the right people and
yeah.
whatnot. But my father was a he worked on our family history. He was a genealogist. He worked for 60 years on our family history. And
Wow.
he started back in the 70s before there was computers, okay?
Yep.
And he did it the hard way. He went to the Lubbock County Library and looked at all these microfiche of census records and all this kind of stuff. And then ordered off. Could get death certificates, birth certificates, marriage certificates, and you get a lot of information on that. I tromped around cemeteries all over the South with him,
That-
so I learned a lot about searching. And of course, now a lot of it is on the computer. So I have an ancestry.com
mhm.
membership. I have TLO. I have a lot of tools that I use. A lot of times I have to help these people that need an affidavit done, help them discover about their family.
Yeah.
But that's what an ad litem has to do. And, they don't make a whole lot of money, ad
No.
litem.
Yeah. And they get stacked up. I think the lady said she has 6 cases that she's working right now, and it's just
Yeah,
it takes time. I guess it takes a lot of time. Is an ad
exactly.
litem have to be an attorney, or can I sign up for
I
help them?
don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't know the absolute answer to that.
Okay.
I assumed that they do, but I don't know that for a fact.
Maybe a notary. Maybe a notary could sit in for it if you know how to do the research. Because you'd think a
Exactly.
private investigator would be a better fit type of
Than
personality
a
for that
lawyer,
role.
right? Yeah, than
Yeah.
a lawyer, right? Exactly. Yeah, I had a hearing in Ector County. I did by Zoom, thank goodness. Um, that I had several cases. I had 4 cases I was trying to get the proceeds for, and the ad litem was there. That very nice older gentleman, and he just nailed me on one of them. He said, because my clients had told me one thing, that they were the only heir, and then the ad litem comes out and says, "Well, I found a probate from 19 da 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 da, and it showed this and that and whatever." I said, "Okay, you got me on that one. I'll have to go back to the I'll have to go back to the
Oh yeah, I
when
ran into
people don't
that.
tell you the truth. When people don't
Yep.
tell you the truth, you kind of get in a
And yeah, and then that's like a day or two before closing too. So then you have to stop everything. So
yeah,
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 that's not good.
exactly. Yeah. Well, in Ector County, they only have those hearings once a quarter.
Okay.
So so I got stopped on that one until September. I got till
Ah,
September to refile that and with the right information. That was frustrating.
and it's
Once a
so important
quarter.
to have that filed correctly or filed correctly too, because then
Correct.
if there's an error on there, then you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
wait another 3, 4
Oh,
months.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I've trained a member of my staff. My staff there, we all use those genealogy tools to do our work, and a lot of times we just try to go back and double check what our clients are telling us.
Yeah.
And with the advent of Ancestry and all this computer stuff, it's a lot easier than I mean, my father did it the hard way. He went back. I mean, I'm a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution
Oh,
because of my dad's research. You know, you have to provide detailed research to them of all the way back to your revolutionary ancestor. And my father did that uh, for me. That was one of his goals. But he did it the hard way. And I have a picture. I have a like a fan picture that starts with me, then my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, my great great grandparents, and then a couple of my great 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 grandparents. Pictures of them. He tracked down pictures of them.
wow.
Yeah. So,
How far back did that go? To early 1800s?
oh well, of course, I wouldn't be in .dar if it wasn't to the 1700s. Now we haven't gone. He never got it over to Europe. So that's kind of whenever I slow down, then I might take that mantle on to try to expand back into Europe, you know.
Interesting. Have
And
you
I'm
found
also
people
now,
that you're connected to, like any
yeah,
presidents or anything?
well, not presidents. It's funny because I was watching that movie, A Complete Unknown, the other day. I was at my daughter's house and I was watching that, and I don't know if you saw that movie,
Not
but
yet. I will look at
uh,
it.
Woody Guthrie, who in the 20s was a folk singer in America, and his son Arlo Guthrie. You ever heard of him? Okay. Well, anyway, they were folk singers. All right. Anyway, I said to my daughter, I said, "Hey, Gwyneth, we're related to that man." And she said, "Who?" And I said, "Woody Guthrie and his son Arlo Guthrie. We're related to them."
Wow.
So no presidents, but
That's
you know,
cool. My mom's from Massachusetts, so I'm sure she tried at one point to put all that together, but she gave up too. But that's
yeah.
something that I would love to put together too, see where my family came from. Because she grew up in Massachusetts, so it has to be connected to that colony
Absolutely.
somehow or another.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
we put our family, my father, in his 70s, he learned how to operate a computer. And of course, I was his
Wow.
long distance IT person. Every night he was calling me, "Why did somebody do this?"
Yeah.
And, but he learned, and then he got a scanner and he scanned all of his research, pictures, certificates, everything, scanned it into the file. It's a humongous file. It is both my father's side and my mother's side. And then we put it on Ancestry. And so it's funny, I'll go on Ancestry, I'll see all our stuff coming
Yeah.
back to me that other people, are now using.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because you
it's
can
kind of
see how
interesting.
with I think the bubbles or whatever, how they connect. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So now my project is my daughter's about to get married. Next June, she's getting married. And she's marrying a gentleman by the name of Tomerbick, which I'm not exactly sure what nationality that is. But anyway, so I told Gwyneth, I said, well, I want my grandchildren to know their history. So I'll research his
Yeah.
family for you. Yeah. So that's what I'm starting to do. And it's a lot easier than the way my dad did, but I
Hopefully
was
it turns out all
deciding.
positive.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, who knows? But we shall see. Yeah, now I think there's a few scoundrels that is in my family history as well, but
I think
we
everybody
don't
has them.
talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
them.
that's cool. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody in a situation where they need to find somebody? What would be the best thing for you for to lead them? So if they came across a obituary like that and they're working with an attorney to do it, but they wanted to do the research, just get an account on Ancestry and start building it.
That is one thing, and there's other genealogy programs. The Mormon Church has one of the biggest genealogical libraries ever, and a lot of that is free.
That's right. Yeah.
And you just kinda have to play detective, okay, and
Hmm.
obituaries are a great source of
Yep.
information. Uh, Except sometimes people will have stepchildren and on the obituary they say, "And she had daughter so and so and so and so and so and so," because they raised them as if they were their daughter. But
Yeah.
when you're trying to do the legal work, a stepdaughter is not the same as a daughter. Okay,
Mm.
so that can be a little misleading. Anyway, you look at the obituary, and then, like I said, I have some kind of skip tracing software also. So I enter
Yeah.
people's names, and then it'll tell you who they might be connected with. And
Yep.
sometimes it's easy, sometimes you have to go a bunch of different ways.
Actually, we were tracking down somebody that had an abandoned house in Fort Worth, and it was a foreclosure. It was actually, I think, 21 days to the sale. And I got on Been Verified,
Uh huh.
and the lady actually changed her name because she got married.
Hmm.
So I couldn't find her under her last name that was on the title. But then I looked on Facebook and I saw that she just got married. So then I linked it to her husband, and then I did a search on his name, and they just built a property or filed a permit in Tyler, Texas. So I told my wife one day, I was like, I just called them. They told me they'll work with us. We actually ended up buying the house, but
It's great.
we drove all the way out there to get their signatures,
Yeah.
and they avoided the foreclosure, and they still made $8,000, and they just had a baby. So
Oh,
I think
that's
it all worked out.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Really
sorry.
best. Yeah, that's fantastic. And like I said, you just never know how you're going to find somebody. Like you said, Facebook, you can do
Yeah,
some looking on Facebook and that kind of stuff. And you just never know what it is that's going to give you that piece of information that you need to find
yeah.
somebody.
So actually, about five during COVID, we found out that we had a half brother, and he lived right in Hearst. Never knew about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh wow.
He wrote me a message around Christmas time and said, "Hey, will you take this DNA test for me?" Out of the blue. He's like, "I think you're my brother. Will you take a DNA test?" And it's funny how much he's 5 years younger than me, but identical. He looks just like me, younger. Same path, like same kind of grade school grades, Marine Corps, got his own business going. It's just the same personality all around. It's funny.
Well, That's
Yeah,
that's wild.
it's
That's
cool.
wild. So there's a lot to say for nature versus nurture, huh? A lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, back 20 years ago, we didn't have, I mean, this whole technology is wild now. Like you said, DNA tests and all that. People are
Yep.
finding people all over the place, relatives all over the place. And what I find interesting also is the criminology, the genealogists that work with law enforcement.
Yes.
Because
Like they're finding that serial killer that had, or what was it? Something, I don't know, that guy in California that killed a bunch of girls, but they, it was something with the
well,
genealogy.
that guy up in Long Island, the Long Island killer or whatever,
Yes. Yeah.
they found him through that genealogy, and then they went and picked up a pizza wrapper that he had thrown out in the trash, and that matched the DNA. That's how
Uh,
they got to him.
that's funny. I watched one where a guy was in the Navy and he went down to some training camp for a weekend, and it was like the third girl he killed, but they figured out where he was at the time with the DNA, and then they attached all three murders with him. Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder to get away with anything these days.
Yes. Yeah. And harder to steal anybody's property. Thank God with
Well,
title.
thank God. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the big, that's a big concern right now is people fraudulently deeding people's property to
Yeah.
themselves. And that's
I've got
big.
an alert set up on mine, and it's just I don't. What a mess to deal with if you had to deal with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's a lot of older people, like you said, that own their homes free and clear. If you
Yeah.
got a mortgage already on it, it's not so good. Okay. But they still can do it. But uh, I've had a couple of claims that my underwriting company had to pay, not because of anything I did, but because there was a fraudulent deed up the chain of title, and it finally came out in the open, and so there was a complete failure of title, and
Wow.
title company paid.
People that have a house paid off, can you file your own lien against yourself? Protect you? Is that another
Well,
layer? I
there's a
guess.
way. There's a way to do that. There's a
I was
way to do
thinking.
it.
I was thinking I need to do that just on properties that we own. Just that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
make it
exactly.
look like there's a lien, but have a release sign just in case I die or something.
Yeah, well, if you have a company, that makes it a lot easier.
So you just make
Yeah,
a lien for your company against the house.
right.
Yeah.
As a house. Yeah,
Good point.
absolutely.
Okay. You made me thinking a lot on this one. That's good. So what's the best advice we could give someone in 40 years of being a lawyer, attorney? What is someone you met on the street? What would you tell them about preparing their estate?
Oh, preparing their estate. Well, the number one thing I would say is absolutely do a will, even if it's just basic. Go to a lawyer and get a will done. Okay. And then make sure that someone knows where that is, the original
Yeah.
of that is. Because I get it all the time. Oh, yeah, he had a will. And I was like, well, okay. Do you have the original of it? Was it probated? Oh, no. Well, after 4 years, if you don't
Yeah.
probate a will, it's like you died without one.
So every 4 years you need to update it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you just need to make sure that if someone dies, that will has to be submitted to probate court within 4 years.
Okay. That's right.
They don't do it, then after 4 years, it's as if they didn't have a will, and you're going to fall into the Texas intestacy statutes,
Yeah.
regardless what the will says. So, number one, do a will. Make sure someone knows where it is. Make sure someone knows that for it to be valid, it has to be taken to court after I die. Then that's your basic protection. Now, I have a lot of clients that are now wanting to do trusts, revocable
Yes.
living trust. And that's a good strategy for a lot of people. But you still start out with that will, because what happens if you set up a trust and you inadvertently don't include all of
Yeah.
your assets, well, then whatever asset you didn't include is going to pass by intestacy as
Yeah.
opposed to pursuant to your will. So that's really the number one thing. And I was bad. You know how the carpenter's kids don't have any shoes. Well, I was bad for a long time about that myself, as far as not having my will. But I have it. I certainly have it. I have had it for a long time. So it's not something fun that people want to do. It's important, and also try to have a general power of attorney in case you get incapacitated. You're alive.
That's good advice.
Yeah,
Does,
those would be the big things.
so power of attorney, just a general one would work for a title company. You don't have to be
Yes,
too
a
like
durable.
list that.
Yeah, no. If you follow the statute for a durable power of attorney, most title companies will accept that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I ran into a
make
few that we tried to close and they just downloaded something online and it was,
that. I hate the fact that people try to do these affidavits of heirship on from something that they downloaded online, and
yeah.
all that does is muck up the whole thing. Really messes everything up. Same thing with the
Every,
power of attorney. Pay a lawyer a little bit of money to go make sure it's done correctly. That's the other thing I would say. It's false economy to try to do stuff like that yourself.
Yeah.
Pay a lawyer, at least go talk to a lawyer so that you feel comfortable that it's done correctly. Because if it's not done correctly, it's not going to be worth anything.
I have to tell you, I've never talked to attorneys until I started this podcast as much as I have. A lot of people just don't, they don't want to talk to the IRS. They don't want to talk to attorneys, and they really don't want to talk to their mortgage company. Just avoid all those people. But
Yeah,
yeah, I get it. Anything that
yeah,
you're
it's
working
so.
on? Are you busy right now with title work? Or
Yeah, we're pretty busy. Of course, like I said, most of my title work comes from, in fact, I have a marketing person that works part-time a little bit with me. And I was talking to her this morning and she said, "Well, where's your title business come from?" I said, "It comes from all over. It
yeah,
comes from, like I said, I get a lot from people that try to close somewhere else and they can't get it. I have agents, customers, I have mortgage company customers, but our title our title business, the pandemic was a tough time for the title business,
yes,
and me in particular, because essentially I used to go out and speak it live to all kinds of groups. I used to do all this, and that all just came to a screeching halt. And after the pandemic was over, I didn't get started back up soon enough. And so everything kind of bottomed out. And so that's why you're seeing now the podcast.
yes.
We're, yeah,
No,
trying to get back out there
yep,
because if you can provide people with information,
yeah.
that's what they want.
That's what.
I don't do a lot of selling myself other than by, hey, I know how to do this. Hey, this is how you do this. You know, that's how I sell myself.
Learned over the years. I just can't. It's they want you in sales. You got to persuade people, but it's really self discovery. So if I just give people all the information and then explain it if they're ready for me to explain it, I always said that I don't like to talk to somebody unless they're looking at me because if they're not looking at
Right?
me, they're not listening to me.
They're not listening. That's right.
So
Yep, that's exactly
if I email a bunch of information over, I don't know if they're actually ready for it.
right.
So I love to get the appointment and then ask permission to have those conversations. It just,
Exactly.
but giving the people the information prior to, or if they could research you and watch a few minutes of YouTube, and that's powerful. That's so
Very
powerful.
powerful.
And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
forever until Google shuts it down. Yeah.
That's true. And I always ask everybody, whether it's title or it's legal or whatever, how did you find me? And the majority of it is on Google.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So how do people find you? You have a website, or where's your office
I do
located?
have a website. My website is www.lonerganlaw.com. And I'm centrally located here in Dallas, right at the High Five. I'm on the southwest corner of the High Five, right at Central and 635. And yeah, that's the best way. Of course, as you know, I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn,
I subscribe to
all
your
of that.
channel.
Right, exactly. Subscribe to my channel. That's right.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Next time I'm in Dallas, I'll stop by and bring y'all something.
well, please do. If you need the help with that difficult file, let us know.
I do. I may just get Hannah to close it out and send it over to you for those memos, because they used to be able to get transactions through that where memos are a year old. Now
Right.
she says it's 4 years.
Wow.
So they
Okay.
will do it, but it has to be 4 years now. And that's tough. I don't run into too many memos, but it's always the tough houses, the tough titles that
That's
they
right.
they've done something where they pre-sold it to somebody else and they didn't close.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So avoid that if you're listening to this video.
That's
You
exactly right.
It just makes it difficult on both of us, you and I, and everybody else in the title business or real estate.
Right.
Things you don't know about when you first get into real estate. It's amazing. All this stuff, all these little, I'm still learning after 20 years. So, where's your thoughts with AI? I think it's very helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Now I'm a novice as far as
Yeah.
AI. Luckily, I have young people that work for me. That but that is one of my projects. As soon as I get this new lawyer in here so she can do some of the paperwork, I'm going to devote a significant amount of time to learning about AI and how I can use that, because if you
Yeah.
a law firm that doesn't use it is gonna be left behind.
Correct. I actually use it for my listing appointments now. I'll put in all the comps for the neighborhood for the last year, and I'll let it spit out a report for me. And then I go through and read it and edit it. But you can do research on houses that you've never, like, there's one that I did 2 weeks ago. It was actually a house in Dallas near the airport, Southwest Airline. What was it? Airport?
Uh,
Can't- Yeah,
Love
left
field.
field. I don't fly out there too often, but there was a triple murder in the house,
Interesting.
and ChatGPT spit out saying that there was a recent criminal activity in the house. You should look into it. So I said, "What criminal activity you have?"
Wow.
On the next line, it said it gave me the news report of all channels, the videos, and then the crime report number, so I could get the report.
Wow.
Crazy. Never. You
Amazing.
don't even think about that.
That's right. Yeah, no, I like I said, I'm trying to get into the 21st century as far as AI is concerned, but I'm lagging behind, but I'm determined. Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, so we're at the hour now. So you have any last thoughts, that anything that would help somebody in the title business, or
Well,
anything?
well, I would just advise people, depending on what their situation is, to be diligent about finding help, finding someone that can help them, someone like you that is knowledgeable, somebody, you know,
Uh-huh.
don't just go with because my cousin's brother works in the title business, or my cousin's brother is a
They just got
maybe.
hired last week. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Do some research, because it's going to be so critical. You're going to find that at the end, number one, it'll make your life a lot easier, and it will help you avoid a problem.
Yes. That's really good advice. Well, go subscribe to her channel if you're watching this. My name is Dave Pannell, and I appreciate y'all watching. I'm
Well,
gonna stop.
thank you very much, Dave, for having me on.
Yeah, this is really cool because it gives me about 60 minutes to really talk to an attorney, and I love it because you
All
guys got
right.
so much. You got so much knowledge. But thank you again for watching.